So you want to build a public adjusting franchise. Maybe yes, maybe no. But I do believe that you can build your public adjusting business to operate like a franchise, even if you never ever have plans on going that route. And I'm going to offer you some alternatives to actual franchising because franchising can be expensive if done properly and legally. What I want to cover today is specifically with this topic and this agenda covered to public adjusting companies because that's who I work with, that's who I love, and that's who you guys are for first party claims. So, quickly in the beginning, we're going to talk about, and you're going to have this on the slides. And if you're watching it on YouTube, just hit pause, kind of do a screen cap kind of thing. The difference between true franchising, the legal definition and process for franchising, marketing cooperatives, company owned operations, licensing deals, dealerships, JVs, which are joint ventures, all, and there's different types of business structures, but I want to touch upon some of these because I'm either asked about them or told public adjusting companies are pursuing some of these, and some of them don't even apply to public adjusting companies. So I kind of wanted to throw kind of my glossary out front. Benefits of behaving like a franchise. This is real quick and simple. There's going to be one slide. It is extremely easy to identify once you understand what a franchise is and how to set up a franchise, what the benefits are. And I'm not going to talk about actually going through the benefits or the parts of becoming a franchise. I want to talk about the part that you need from franchising and the part that can make you better as a company if you never even intend on growing bigger than what you are right now. And then this, honestly, the last bullet point is the core of everything that I want to cover, which is how to set up your SOP. And we'll talk about that because a lot of this comes from corporate as well as franchising, because franchisors, the holder of the franchise, kind of corporate, can be a big company or a small company. It doesn't really matter, but there are a lot of business techniques and methodologies that kind of have to kick in when we talk about that. So we're going to talk about your SOP, which is absolutely crucial, I'm going to show you how to build your culture of compliance, which, oh my God, it is so corporate. I wanted to faint, but it's something that I really feel passionate about with public adjusting companies. We're going to do a deep dive into that and how to become a turnkey setup, which is, kind of a lot of people's goals. As with most things, your industry obviously has a lot of legal connotations and overhead to it. I'm going to put the same thing out here for me. Please don't take what we talk about on today's webinar as Lynette said, so it must be true. If it's on the internet, that doesn't mean it's true. Do your own research, find reliable sources. I have found reliable sources for you that you can shortcut your vetting process and kind of go out with it there. This is meant for research for a jumping point, especially if you are looking to pursue an actual franchise ownership going forward. So just take everything what I'm saying with a non-legal slant. So quickly, we're going to talk about franchising, co-ops, company owned, etc., and kind of give you the pros and cons and what they are. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit pause. If you're watching it live, you're going to get the slides. Okay, my too long didn't read right here. I'm going to give you your best options and deals that are off the table as far as the terms of business structures that we're going to talk about. The easiest and the least expensive is a company owned operation, which is basically you opening another office someplace, another office, another branch, that sort of thing under the same name, all that. We're going to go about that. That is the cheapest option to expand. Your next is a JV. It has money involved. All of these obviously have money involved, but it's a little bit more. And then the next is marketing co-op, which I don't always obviously have insider knowledge of all the companies that I work with. But to my knowledge, I have seen public adjusting companies behave as if, in my opinion, they are marketing co-ops. So I'm not saying any do or any don't, but from the outside, to me, they look like marketing co-ops. And then franchising. I will be 100% honest. I do not have experience with every single public adjusting company in North America. So I'm not saying that they don't exist, but to my knowledge, I have never come across a true franchise public adjusting company yet, like filed with the feds and stuff like that. Off the table dealerships and licensing. And I just had someone tell me this week they were licensing, etc. And I'm like, you're not, because it's a legal term and I'm going to explain what it means. So very quickly, licensing and dealerships not available, in my opinion, to public adjusting companies. That would mean that you would have the right to license or become a dealer for a public adjusting license in a state, and you do not. You don't have that right. Sorry, love you, don't. So business licensing is more like a Disney thing or Marvel, right? I'm going to make the t-shirt, I'm going to make the stickers, I'm going to make the sneakers, and I'm going to put Disney approved artwork, Marvel approved artwork, that sort of thing on it. I make it, I sell it, I'm getting the intellectual property from someone else. That's a licensing deal. You're not licensed. If you're letting other public adjusting companies use your name, that's a different deal. That's probably like more like a marketing co-op. So we're going to talk about that. Licensing is actually a very specific legal entity. So are dealerships. Most people know of dealerships as car dealerships, but you can be a dealer of something like a Vera Bradley bag or Nike shoes. And that's kind of authorizing that you are not selling counterfeit things. Obviously, those two things don't apply in public adjusting. Hopefully we can all agree on that. If you don't, hit me up on email. I would love to have a spirited discussion about it. Okay. Next, like I had mentioned, this is kind of top of my list. It's a company-owned operation. You have a office in Tampa and you want to open an office in Miami. You own it. It is under the same legal business entity, your company name, LLC, whatever it is, even if you're opening in other states. As long as the business itself is registered and, sales tax or all those things that you have to do in the city state requirements, there's no legal filing for you to ask the government, state or fed, to say, hey, may I please open another, office? Totally cool. Do what you want. It is owned by leadership of that company, but it's usually run and managed by other staff, right? You're going to have a site manager, that sort of thing. So that's the easiest way to expand your company. Next is a JV and marketing co-op. So here I have the breakdown, but basically a joint venture is where you have company A and company B, and they create company C together. And both of those companies do business with the third company. This is very common in something like network marketing or things like that. I've not really seen it in public adjusting, though I'm not saying that that's not possible. You may have two I'm just coming up with this kind of as an example. You may have two public adjusting companies that decide they want to do estimates, but they don't want to do, or appraisals, and they don't want to do it under the umbrella of their main company. So they band together with someone else, create a third company as a joint venture. They both have, whatever the legal requirements, however much they own, percentages, etc. And then they do that different type of business within that third legal entity. A marketing co-op is what I've seen possibly the most, or what I think has the most potential, to be honest, in public adjusting. I feel like I want to put my video on now, but I know there's a lot of text on the screen. It provides name recognition, and they usually charge a fee to use the name. So if I had, best of the world public adjusting company, and other people wanted to work under me and use that name, they would pay me to use that name. Either a flat monthly fee, a one-time fee, which neither of which I recommend, or they're charging a revenue split, a rev split. So they may say, we're going to take 1% of your company claim fee on everything that you write and settle, just so you can use my name, sort of thing. Marketing co-ops generally pass leads across locations, whether it's corporate down or kind of spidered across all of them. For people that tend to have licenses in multiple states, you may need to think about predicting territories. If I have a license in Texas, but I have a co-op that exists in Texas, well, who gets that lead? Me, and I'm going to fly there if it's big enough, or do I automatically give it to the co-op in Texas? So there's a lot of legalities that you kind of have to hammer out before doing this or before selling it. Marketing co-ops may share websites, and to me that's very powerful, because you're putting one set of money and resources into domains, SEO, marketing, lead gen, that sort of thing. You may also split back office, but that's not always the case. So you may have adjusters that have bought into your co-op all over the place, but they send all of their work into a main office to get processed for appointment settings, things like that. When that happens, that is usually what I've seen an additional fee on a claim. So they may pay the co-op fee and they may pay an admin fee. So they may be giving up 5% or something of their company fee, 1% to use the name, and say 4 or 5% to actually get the admin work done. Again, that's something that you would have to decide yourself. Each company, though, is its own legal entity. So it would still be Lynette Young LLC, but doing business as, or my name is officially, you know, this kind of thing, so that people recognize me as the bigger parent company. With this, the parent companies do not generally hold legal authority over what the co-op purchaser does, who they hire, who they fire, how they charge, that sort of thing. It's not, they don't hold a franchise, so they don't have legal authorization over that. Franchising is a legal status federally and by states. There's tons of ways that franchises have to be registered. It's a business model as well. Much like direct marketing or retail or drop shipment is a business model, franchising is a business model. There is a specific way that it has to be created, a legal way that it has to be created going forward. It requires lots of legal documents, lots of disclosures, lots of transparency, financial and otherwise, to be able to do that. There's a lot of work that needs to be put into a franchise before you're allowed to sell a franchise, you know, to a franchisee, someone that buys it. Like the McDonald's is always, you know, the world's most known franchise holder. Legal filing is always required. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. And if you represent yourself as a franchisor when you're really not, it's illegal. And I do personally, not in this world, but in my prior life, I do know of one company that got shut down, sued, out of existence, house and home and kids like tuition for college, for selling franchises when they really weren't. So don't even tell people you're running a franchise if you're not. That's my expert opinion on that. Okay. So when people tell me, you know, they're interested in franchising, there's a lot of upfront money that is involved in that. Some of this is lawyer fees. Some of this is state and federal filing fees. As a franchisee, as a franchisor, sorry, as the, you know, kind of like corporate, you have a lot of responsibility, fiscal responsibility, disclosure responsibility. I very much like, and I have for years, kind of used franchiselawsolutions.com, and I have lots of their stuff in here, and I have their website and etc. They are attorneys that help with this because that's what they specialize in. Just like, you know, first party claims attorneys specialize in this and they understand what a proof of loss is, you know, that sort of thing. You want an attorney that understands this. $18,000 to $84,000 is the estimated cost of the first stage of franchising. And that doesn't include marketing or selling or any of that other stuff. So I just kind of put this here for your knowledge. When people tell me they want to start a franchise in any business, specifically public adjusting, they want to skip to this fictitious step 8, right? They want to sell franchises and basically they want to collect fees and rev shares on somebody that wants to use their name, their marketing, their back office, you know, their good name in the industry kind of thing. There's a lot more to it. If you're really running a franchise, that comes like a year later. You need to do all of these other things before you can actually establish a franchise. And a franchise does need to, it cannot be your company. A franchise needs to be created as a legal business entity of its own. And your company would become the owner of that franchise, the master franchise. So there's a lot that goes with it. But as you can see here, people just want to skip to the last part and say, well, I have a great idea, or people really respect my company. I want to sell it as a franchise. Or even long time ago, I bought a really great domain for public adjusting company. I want to sell franchises so people could basically be listed on that website. That's not how it works. Where you really need to start, whether you want to do a franchise, whether you want to do a marketing co-op, whether you just want to grow your own business in place and don't worry about all this other newfangled stuff, is you really need to focus on your SOP, your standard operating procedure. And we're going to definitely cover this. It's not big, scary. Don't Google it. Or actually, maybe you should Google it because it's big and scary and corporate boring websites to tell you how to make this really boring document that I promise no one will read. I have better ways for you. I promise. So I want you to think about your operations manual. Operations manual, or SOP, is the thing that is considered highly your secret sauce to how much your franchise is worth. A franchise's worth, a franchisor, the corporate, its worth is dependent on three things: your SOP, your brand name recognition, and how good you are at generating leads. If you can't walk into any national or whatever conference or roofers expo or anything and say the name of your public adjusting company and have everybody go, oh yeah, or your law firm, oh yeah, I know who you are, you don't have brand recognition yet, not big enough to probably sell an actual franchise. If you are handling more leads than you can ever deal with on your own, if you're not, then you probably don't have enough leads to send to your franchise holders, because that is what is expected of someone that purchases, that gives you $50,000, $100,000 to buy into your franchise. They're expecting leads from you. And then also the secret sauce is your SOP. McDonald's SOP, I mean, now it's everywhere, but they are very big on suing other companies that rip off their procedures, right? So if you want to go to McDonald's and you can basically, I'm not disparaging anyone that works at McDonald's, and now I kind of want to go to the drive-through. But there's literally an SOP that says this is how you make a burger. There are pictures, there are words, and there are words in different languages because they're McDonald's. You don't even have to read any language to know how to make a burger at McDonald's. There are laminated cards that go up in front of the stations, and I could walk in there today. I've never worked in fast food a day in my life and figure out how to make a burger. That's what an SOP does. That is McDonald's secret sauce. How they go from procurement to shipping to logistics to delivery to creating to customer experience to how they clean their bathrooms. Everything is in an SOP. That's what people buy when they buy a McDonald's franchise, is they are buying that guide, is basically how it goes. And there's consistency. You can go to McDonald's anywhere in the world pretty much and get exactly the same thing and expect what you're getting. Okay. Soapbox, Lynette. So benefits of behaving like a franchise, because having a franchise has a benefit, but it has tremendous overhead, not even just the money outlay. It's tremendous overhead. So one slide, very easy. Most of my job with webinars is making things succinct because, like I said, character flaw, I'm too verbose. So if you think of yourself as if you are getting ready to prepare to make your company a franchise, what do you need to do and what are your benefits going to be from it? Number one, standard operating procedure. Everyone in your company is going to know exactly what they're supposed to be doing and how they're supposed to do it. We're going to see later is I get a lot of pushback from people saying, office staff, well, if I write down how I do everything, then I can be replaced. No. People feel that, holding what they do close to their, chest kind of thing is job security. It is not job security. It is a huge liability for the company. I don't know if everyone on this call or everyone watching this video is a business owner, but business owner to business owner, that's how I'm going to talk to you right now. If your employees are not completely 100% transparent about how they do their job, and then we're going to go forward with that, they are a liability to your company. They are a legal liability to your company. I cannot stress that enough. You're going to wind up with a formal marketing plan, which hell, most of us don't have. We're just kind of winging it, right? Hey, it's cat season. We're fat. The calls are coming in. It's like, oh, it's April. It's the dry season. What are we going to do? We're going to beat the drum. We got to drive around looking for blue tarps. Like, that's not a marketing plan. If you're going to sell a franchise, you need to have a marketing plan, because those people that are buying in need to know how to market their business, and that's what they're paying you for. Next, you're going to have properly documented financial history and projections, which we should all have. You need clearly defined and documented job positions, roles, and training. If you hire a new receptionist, how are you going to train them? If you hire a new adjuster, how are you going to train them? And not train them how to be a public adjuster, train them how to work inside your business. The same goes for your management team. Clearly defined roles, expectations, and responsibilities and accountability for your management and ownership team. I want you to think about clearly defined and documented compensation plans. How much are you paying your adjusters? Like, is there a sliding scale? All of that needs to be thought about. If you were selling a franchise, those people buying your franchise want to go, well, how much do I have to pay my people? And how much money is that going to cost me? And how much money am I going to make? They want to know. In your business, vendor lists and expert lists are completely an asset. I feel that it is an intellectual property asset for you to gather and curate your preferred. And when I say preferred list of vendors, I don't mean like the carriers do. I'm saying the vendors that you like to work with. Who's your dry out guys you like to call when a client needs help? Who's your drone guy? Like who's running your Matterport? Who do you call that you can get reliable service at a good price from? That list is valuable. And if you were to franchise, those people that are buying your franchise want the shortcuts to the good people to work with. And then predefined administrative functions and reporting. What reports do you need to run every month? How do the numbers look? What do they mean? How do I make them change? All those kinds of things. So those are very important things. All of these things, when you put in your SOP and some other things, you're going to get these benefits. And I'll be honest, I've not met a business owner yet that tells me improving the things that are on the screen right now will not be a benefit to their company. How to create SOP, culture of compliance. Hallelujah, Lynette. I love this. And turnkey setup, which is super easy. So first thing we're going to talk about is your SOP. SOP is not scary. SOP is how do you do things? So in your line of business, these are the things that you should think about. And a lot of people don't think about anything other than the first bullet point. How to work a claim, right? And that is a workflow. And if you know ClaimWizard, we have action item workflows, and you can have different workflows for different types of work. I always advise people, you need to work this out on paper first, kind of like out of ClaimWizard, because we can't make a business plan for you. We can't tell you your workflow process. That's your secret sauce. That's the thing you got to do. When you're working with a client or when you're working with your staff, and I'm working with you as a client, I tell you, take 10 claims, brand new claims that come into your office, whether it takes you a day or a week, a month, or whatever your workflow, whatever your volume is. Take 10 claims, get a piece of paper, staple it on every claim. Even if you do it digitally, I want a piece of paper for every claim. Every single time someone touches a claim for any reason, makes a phone call, gets an email, anything, you write it down on the piece of paper. After you're done from origination to settlement, you're going to look at those 10 claims and you're going to see a lot of consistency across them. 10 is what I find a really good cross section of what your open book of business looks like. Maybe you never get a claim that has appraisal on it. You get it once every 100 times. Maybe you get it a lot. It's going to show up in that 1 in 10. So that's how you would start that process of retaining what is your SOP. And it's super easy. You don't have to make some big thing. As everyone who's probably ever heard me talk on a webinar, I am a huge fan of Mike Michalowicz. He has written a ton of books. The book that I recommend for this is Clockwork. He doesn't say that Clockwork is sort of like franchising your business. He's basically about how can you take a month-long vacation from your business and have more money than when you left. Like, it's weird. But he goes through this idea of capturing processes, and he actually recommends taking a phone, taking a camera, whatever, with video. And when anyone in your company does a piece of their work, they literally videotape it or screen capture it or whatever, and then record it and throw it up someplace, a private YouTube server, whatever you're going to do. And the next person that needs to learn how to do that task, they open up the video and they watch it. If the process has improved or changed, and I'm watching the video and I say, this process doesn't apply anymore, we've changed it. Well, now it's my responsibility to refilm or re-record, push out the old one, put in the new one. So everyone that has to do something after that now knows the procedure, and it goes on and on. I don't necessarily think you have to videotape yourself. I think writing things down is perfectly fine. But how to work a claim, right? That workflow is huge. It has a lot of steps to it. It has a lot of if thens and buts and what if it goes this way, or for what if it goes to, mediation or this or that. That's the biggest nut that you're probably going to have to worry about in this. So maybe it is a good place for you to start because it's always top of mind. And maybe it's not a good place for you to start because it's kind of big. I think it's your bread and butter. I think that's probably a good place to start. But if you're nervous about how you're going to actually document this, start with something else that's lesser used. How to record and deposit a check, right? I just got that question today. How do I do this? Step 1, open the mail, take a picture, photocopy it. Step 2, go to ClaimWizard, enter the check, like write those things down. How do you get something notarized? Maybe it's changed. I think it's Florida now allows, probably because of COVID, digital online notaries. So you don't have to physically go someplace. You can send the documents in, get an account with them, and then they send it back to you digitally notarized. I don't know how it works other than that's just literally what I've heard from clients. So maybe your process of notarizing something has changed. It used to be call Cindy up, have her do it. She comes over on Tuesdays. And now it's different. Now it's log into this account, upload the PDF. So revise your procedures as you go along. How do you set up a workstation for a new employee? How do you offer someone a job? How do you fire someone? What are the checklists you have to go through to make sure all their accounts are turned off? How to set a file up for pre-lit, those sorts of things. Those are all the things that you can, just off the top of my head, I literally wrote down that you can write procedures for all of this. Your standard operation procedure, your manual, is nothing more than a whole bunch of these procedures put together in one big fat book and categorized by topic. Not very scary. So I go through, and this is what I suggest you do. Think of the task that needs to get done, steps you need to complete it, who's responsible for it, the repercussions if it does not get done on time or correctly, or things like that, like what are the legal repercussions of it, and then have your leadership sign off on it. And that's for a few reasons. So I have here, very simple. How do you set up a workstation for a new employee? You confirm when they're going to be hired. Make sure that you're going to have to go back and say, if they're coming in tomorrow, like, whoops, that's a little too late. I got to rush. But if I have a week, how long is it going to take me to do all the other things so that I have it done in time? So when the person comes to their new desk on their first day of work, they have all their HR forms and their computer and their emails are, their phone works. Like, make sure that it's done for them. That time up front, because everybody that knows me knows I like to front load stuff. Doing that things up front and having a repeatable checklist will help you later when you realize your employee's been sitting there for a week and she doesn't have access to her own email and you're getting mad that she's not answering anything. Like, this is an SOP. This is the reason for it. Train them, build in time for this. But even some of the other things here, like who's responsible for this? Well, if every time I have a new employee come in, I'm going, well, who's going to do that? Who knows how to order computers? Does anybody have access to their phone system? Like, no, like, you have to determine this stuff up front, because if you were to sell this book, so to speak, this SOP to another company, they want to know, oh, my office manager. So when I hire an office manager, I'm going to tell them, hey, part of your job responsibility is to do these things in our SOP, and they have to know how to do them and be okay with it. So that's kind of, it's a two-sided thing here. Repercussions for failure, right? So your new employee can't begin their new position with their appropriate tools, or you're sending them email, they don't know how to get it, those sort of, they don't answer their phone, they have voicemail, they don't know how to access all this stuff, right? Repercussions of failure for when we're talking about claims. If you don't send your proof of loss out when it's legally or by its legal deadline, what are the repercussions? Tell your employees this, and we're going to cover that in a sec too. If they think you're just asking for this, like you're asking your kid to brush their teeth and they just think you're doing it to haze them, no, like, let's look on the internet for some rotten teeth pictures. Hey, there's repercussions to you not brushing your teeth. Hey, there's legal responsibilities and legal repercussions to our company if you don't do this thing on time. Very clear. I have talked to company people that work in the office that literally do not understand why they are sending estimates to get notarized by clients. Don't just say do it, tell them why. Let them have some ownership in it. And then I want to talk about leadership sign off. If an office manager has to go to you every single time looking, can I add an email address and I need you to press the button, or can I order a new computer, whatever, it slows things down. When you come up with SOPs, make sure that the responsible party has full authorization to do the tasks they need to do in order to get that thing done. Watch for failure points and bottlenecks. This is what people pay for when they buy a franchise. You are supposed to have figured out the best ways to do things, the most time efficient, the most economically efficient, the most profitable way, the fastest way. And if you haven't figured that out yet, well, why am I buying your system? I can do the same work myself, sort of thing. Look for the bottlenecks. I will tell you 150% of the time, owners are the bottlenecks of their own company, myself included, Dave included. He can't hear me right now, so we're good. Watch out for the bottlenecks. Doing your SOPs, all of your tasks will identify the bottlenecks. Don't just identify them, fix them. So, culture of compliance. Okay, y'all still with me? Culture of compliance. When I work with people on action items and I say, well, how come you this or that? Well, no one's going to listen. Well, I set up action items. Nobody does them. Nobody clicks the buttons. Well, everybody has their own way of doing things. So I set up action items, which is basically a smaller version of an SOP. But they all have their own way of doing it. So like everybody generates letters differently, or everybody uses a different template for something, or everybody answers the phone differently. Everybody has a different email signature. Okay. Well, here's one. Well, I don't understand how they do their job, so I just stay away from it. My favorite is the bulldog office managers who scare the owners so much. I don't know how she does things. She just gets it done. We don't ask because she's awesome at her job. Well, you know what? When she decides to go on vacation with her husband, checks don't get cashed because we literally don't understand how she cashes checks or where she keeps things. It's dangerous. I cannot stress that enough. It is dangerous to let someone completely be rogue in a company and not have fallback, not have written procedures on how they do something. Maybe they put it behind glass and it says, break in case of emergency because they don't want anybody knowing. But if they take off on you, you have to have a fallback on how to run your company. It is your company, period, end of discussion. People will use productivity hacks, shortcuts, etc., which is perfectly fine. But if you know one way to do things and it has evolved over the seasons of it being done, you don't really know how to do things anymore. So this comes from Reuters, actually. They're another great resource. They're linked down below that you can use, like I wanted to show you costs of non-compliance. And of course, this doesn't apply to us. Banks and German car manufacturer, which is VW, a Japanese-based electronics company, like 60 million, like people don't even make that in our business in a year, maybe. I don't know. They probably do. Let alone lose that much, right? But here's the other thing that comes from non-compliance. And I can tell you over my 2.5 decades of working with public adjusters, I have seen companies get audited, get shut down, everything bad that you can think of because their company was non-compliant. And why was their company non-compliant? Because they didn't have checks and balances to understand what people were doing and when they were doing it wrong. I've seen insurance fraud. I've seen embezzlement. I've seen siphoning leads off to the receptionist boyfriend who's trying to start his own, public adjusting firm. I've seen a lot. If you have checks and balances and your standard operating procedure, when things derive from that, you will see it. It is very easy to notice a glitch in the pattern, right? A glitch in the matrix type of thing. So how to achieve this, right? So if you're telling me, well, people don't want to do it or they know how to do their own job, I'm not going to get involved. People won't use ClaimWizard. My favorite thing on the whole world is my adjusters won't use ClaimWizard because they have their own way of adjusting claims, and that's why I hired them. That's great. They need to have their secret sauce of actually coming up with estimates of losses, working with carriers, negotiation. That's their secret sauce. How they do paperwork, not secret sauce. your job as an owner to give structure to this and have them do it. Let it be easier for them. Um, it's yeah, that's just it. First of all, people need to be aware that there is procedures in place, or aware that, if I'm out, I personally feel horrible in ClaimWizard when I can't make it to work on a day. Like, that doesn't happen, but I think it was almost 2 years ago, I got a knee replacement. Like, I was like in my bed on my laptop. I mean, my team picked up for me, but it was always, how did you do this, Lynette? What do you do? Where'd you keep that? A lot of that I couldn't recover. Like, I'm on my walker getting to work. It was ridiculous. That's probably when I realized I need to put more of my stuff out there for the rest of my team to do. We all hold on to our stuff. You have to be aware that there's procedures out there. Your team has to be aware of it, and they have to be aware of the repercussions of what happens if something that they're responsible for doesn't get done. Next is communication. Have a backup buddy, whatever. If, one person can't answer the phones, you got to have phone coverage for the over lunch. Or if an adjuster gets sick, is there somebody else that you can call, even if it's outside your own company, that you can call for help, things like that? Or you're getting backlogged on estimates. Do you know of someone that you can call, another company you can hire? I personally would rather eat the cost of hiring an external estimating company than lose that client or relationship or put that claim in peril. So you got to think about communications and how this is all going to shake down. Education. I feel better knowing that the rest of my team knows what I do. They don't want to do my job, but I feel better that they know what's going on. I feel better that I understand what my developers are doing and what their time frame and their roadmap looks like. I don't know how to do their job, but I'm appreciative that I'm in the loop. Effective technology. This comes right from Reuters, right? You have to give your team the technology to keep them compliant in what they're doing. ClaimWizard absolutely 143% can do that for you. Action items, workflows, responsibilities, templates, like documentation, all of it can be done in ClaimWizard. I'm going to skip ahead. Incident reporting. I've talked to people in person in the public adjusting and the office side of things that say if they screw up, they feel they have to hide it from their boss because they're going to get yelled at. Yeah, and in 3 years when they're audited, oh my gosh, are you completely thrown under the bus because your employee was afraid of you or something? Incident reporting is very important. We've talked about this, and Dave and I talk about when we go to conferences. We feel that we call it a closed file review, right? CFR. So, like, if you go through at the end of a claim and realize that things weren't done correctly, like, fix them, audit yourself, document that you've audited yourself and corrected a wrong, that goes a long way. If you ever really truly do get audited, your employees should feel the same way. Say, fine, we screwed up, we sent her the wrong document, let's fix it right now. Like, all right, let's just be professionals about this and go forward. Don't make them feel they have to hide mistakes. Absolutely crucial. And then the last thing, which is actually number 5, is incentives. Give incentives to your team to do this. The harshest thing, because Lynette don't play games, is I have consulted and advised public adjusting companies that started using ClaimWizard, that the adjusters that use ClaimWizard got their stuff done quick. Those claims were closing fast, they were settling fast, they were getting money on time. It was great. And then they had other adjusters. Well, he's an old dog. We can't teach him new tricks, this and that. And we can't. We've asked him, and he won't use ClaimWizard. Lynette's game is you don't pay him his commission on a claim unless he documents it properly. You can't tell me the notes are in his head, because when you have to go to deposition and the notes are in his head, how difficult is that going to be? Incentives can be positive and incentives can be negative. It's up to you to decide what you want for your company. Okay, so benefits of providing and creating this culture of compliance, right, is you're going to wind up with a turnkey business model. Why? Because your procedures are all done. Everyone is on board. They understand their value in the company. They understand the value and the detriment if something doesn't go right. They get this, right? They feel like they're part of this. Second, is you have legal well, I should go back to turnkey business model. That's what you're buying when you have a franchise. You are buying a turnkey business. I want a logo. I want marketing flyers done already. I want to know how to write my job descriptions to hire someone to make a sandwich at Subway. I want you to tell me what to do, and I will plug in the work and the money to make it done. But you have to give me the roadmap. That's what a turnkey business is. That's what a franchise is. And that's what you should build for yourself, even if you never intend on doing any of those things. Second, which probably should be first, is legal compliance. You need to know without a doubt that your team is adhering to any legal compliance issues that you have, deadlines, things like that, documentation, wording, verbiage. If your office manager starts getting on the phone with, a carrier and starts arguing about numbers and money, like, whoa, hello, no. You have to make sure that people kind of stay in their lane and do what they're supposed to do. Legal compliance, your license is on the line with every single action your employees take. Remember that. Next, you're going to have self reliant employees. Any owner of a company, especially a growing company, either growing in business, growing in money, growing in staff, or all, one, two, or three of those, right, knows how annoying and difficult it is to do your own job when you have your employees asking you, what should I do? You're deferring an answer. You're making them come to you with an answer. You're not actually delegating and letting the responsibility of the decision be made on them. You're just saying, you're just training them to come back to you to ask questions. We don't want to do that. This culture of compliance will let them be self-sufficient. You're going to have less staff turnover. If you don't understand how to do somebody's job, learn it. And I'm not saying do it, I'm saying learn it and then teach it to them. This way they know what to do. You don't want staff turnover. Teach them what they're supposed to do. Give them the tools they need to be successful for you. And then obviously you're going to have higher profitability. Staff turnover is a huge expense. I think it's generally considered 2.5 times the money you've spent on their salary. So if you pay someone $40,000 for a year and you lose them after a year, it's basically 80, 90, like, I don't know, 120. Lynn can't do math right now. That's how much money you're basically losing, because it's time and everything to start over. So you want to think about that as well. How profitable? When you have a well-oiled machine, you are profitable. Building value-based cultures, right? So people that feel respected and honored and they feel that they're getting fair treatment from their company that they work for, they're not being yelled at. It gives companies what you give into an employee is what you'll get back from an employee. I would never name names, but I can tell you I've been on the phone with staff and their boss is screaming at them in the background, not realizing they're on the phone. I want you to get me the copy, and where is this blah blah blah, lots of words, colorful words in there. How do you know they're not on the phone with a client and you're like, I would not want to work in that environment. And I don't think you would want to work in that environment, to be respected as an adult and as a professional. So please make sure that everything you're building here respects your team as professionals that they are. And then we'll give the same back to your company. They will treat your company as if they're our own. And I don't mean sticking their hand in the back pocket kind of thing for the checkbook, but I'm saying they will put into your company what you put into them. So turnkey setup, very easy, right? So having a turnkey business is a very like cliche kind of thing. It's very much clockwork, which is Mike Michalowicz's stuff. And I have his links at the end, of course. So just because you set this up, listen, I got all my procedures written down. I know how to hire someone. I know how to set up an email for a new person. That's great. You need to test and retest it. Give those procedures to someone that don't know squat about your business, squat about the job, and see if they can do it. I always like to, it's the air quote my mom thing. My mom is retired, so I can no longer, and she lives in Florida now, so I can no longer use her as a guinea pig. But we would come up with procedures and I'd be like, with ClaimWizard, okay, mom, here's the thing. Can you sit down on the computer and do it following the directions that I wrote? If it's yes, then that's awesome. If it's no, well, where did you stumble? Where did you need clarification? Having standard operating procedures and methods is great, but they must be road tested. Definitely. That's what a franchise is about. That's what a marketing co-op is about actually, is having a well-oiled machine that can work. And when it doesn't work, everyone is on board with making those changes. Okay, more resources for all of you. These are pretty typical resources for me, but I have some extras in here. Internicola, I never know how to say their website. They're the ones that I get a lot of the franchise information from. I've liked them a lot. I've known their information to be honest and true kind of thing, although I don't have a personal relationship with them or anything. So I have their website listed there, and on the slides up before, there are some links directly into like how to build a franchise, how much does it cost, what is a franchise disclosure document, what does it need to contain, all of what states do you need to file in, what states cost money to file in, what states don't care if you sell a franchise or not, those sorts of things. There are tons of legalities with that. I am a research geek. I find great interest. I read this stuff nights and weekends because obviously I need a hobby. Franchise Frankness, great YouTube channel. I absolutely recommend it. Franchise City is actually one of my favorite YouTube channels that I've ever subscribed to. They're really great. So I have their YouTube channel and their website. And then, of course, Mike's book, Clockwork, which I am working towards. I have a clockwork goal of December 31st, 2021. Y'all can hold me down to it. Um, I highly recommend the book. Anyway, I think it's really good to read if you want to disconnect yourself from your own company so everyone's not running to you all the time for everything and how to change the paper towel roll.